and a happy new year to everyone. Welcome to this Sunday series of inspiring leaders. And this is the first session where we are speaking about, spotlighting the pros who have leveled up their careers to take on the impactful board roles. I'm Divya Mumaya, founder of Mentor My Board. I'm super excited to kickstart this series with an inspiring guest who is totally redefining the game in the corporate governance. Today we have with us Ms. Rupanjana De, a practicing company secretary, accomplished author, an independent director on multiple prominent boards, and most importantly, the only woman company secretary in the Central Council of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. Rupanjana's journey is all about breaking barriers, setting up the higher standards. She is a true trailblazer, providing that resilience and the vision can create real change in the boardroom. Now, I was going through your illustrious profile, Rupanjana, and let me tell you, uh, writing 40 plus, co-authoring 40 plus books, writing such a wonderful, content. I know you are editor of a lot of magazines also, practicing company secretary, and along with this, my biggest inspiration is you're the only woman in the Central Council of ICSI. And I think since 2006 you have been part of various boardrooms, which is kind of a inspiring, where people were not speaking about women in boardrooms at that time. We are only speaking about it only since 2013, after the Companies Act came in. Now, with this, I'm sure we are going to have wonderful insights coming from you, and about your journey, your dedication as a company secretary, uh, and then from there becoming independent director. So that's all this series is all about. That how professionals like chartered accountants, company secretaries, lawyers, or even we talk beyond professionals, going professions like doctors, engineers, how are they contributing to the boardrooms. And thank you for accepting our request and being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Divya. Thanks a lot, and congratulations to you too for starting this kind of initiative. I came to know about your initiative long back, actually, about 2 years back,
Yeah.
and I was really happy that somebody is talking about this as a topic, which
Yeah.
I have always thought it's a very good topic to address. But of course, somebody does something and the other things take a back foot. So in my
Yeah.
case, this is something which has taken a back foot and I could never do it. But I'm happy somebody like you, especially you are a very capable person, you are doing it, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, before we kickstart our conversation, I would like to say that we are also starting our 15 minutes fix. That's a quick Q&A series starting from 15th of November. So stay tuned. It's going to be live every day from 6 to 6:15 p.m.
Mhm.
and where we will be speaking about the quick questions, the power packed answers to those questions by our various mentors and industry leaders. Now, again, 5 days, we are going to divide it for promoters focused, for aspiring directors focused, for women director focused, for startups focused, so which is going to be making it more impactful. Now, make sure you also subscribe Mentor My Board on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and register yourself on mentormyboard.com, which is a unique tech platform for boardrooms. Now, let's deep dive in today's session with Rupanjana, and we are honored to have you here to kickstart this session with you. So, my first question comes, Rupanjana, is your journey from a company secretary to an impactful independent director is
Hmm.
inspiring. Now, what are the key shifts in the mindset or the skills which enable you to take up this role, and how other professionals can prepare for such roles? So, I mean, we would want to know your journey. How did you start, and what was your first experience of being on boards?
Okay, so before I answer, I would like the professionals of today. I would like everyone to know that even much before I joined in a board, my journey in the profession has been also a very big struggle, because I grew up in a very small town in northeast, where there was no company secretary. I later came to know there is one company secretary. I became the second one. So that itself was a very difficult from coming, and there was no company registered there to impart training to CS students, the management training. So it was such a small town. So coming from that and going to the board of the some of the top listed companies of the company, that I feel very good about it, that the I'm particularly happy about my transition also. That is what I want to say. And I want to inspire the other professionals by saying this, that there is no limit to dreaming. And sometimes, if even if you're not dreaming about something that you want to achieve in life, we have dreams, but not everybody has dreams, and not always we dream the things that we really achieve in life. Sometimes we achieve something even bigger than we had dreamt. So probably doing studying CS, I was dreaming about a very big, landing a big job in a big city, something like that. But sitting in the helm of a company's affairs in the boardroom was beyond my dream. So but then like, I was diligent, I was always doing my work, and I was doing it very patiently, diligently, adding my own touch. So this has helped me being identified as a candidate. So the first boardroom role that came to me was a little surprising for me, because one of my colleagues only, one of my friends, professional friends, he reached out to me and said that he was a friend. So he said, Rupanjana, we need a woman director in our board, and it was a multinational company. So he said that our multinational directors, they want somebody with a foreign experience, a professional who has a experience and education abroad. So that is something very difficult to find. Like somebody who has done a CS, and somebody has done higher studies abroad and has experience abroad. So luckily he knew me, and he reached out that you have to be. So I was not very ready, and I was not looking forward to it, but then it was nothing, not anything which I wouldn't do like to do. I would love to do it. And then I said, okay, you can share my CV. And then I got right away appointed, selected by the very big multinational company. And
Yeah.
then I became a member of the board. And for because of the related party, not related party, sorry, conflict of interest and all that, interested directors and all that, I had to chair the first board meeting, because the
Oh,
other directors, they were, on certain agenda, they were interested.
interested.
So
Yeah.
I really loved it. In the very first meeting, I chaired part of the agenda items, and I really enjoyed it. I was, in my early 30s at that time. And
Wow.
then, I mean, that particular board, since it was a multinational company, it didn't have any bias against age or women.
Yeah.
So I never faced any bias again due to my age, young age, or being a woman there. But of course, there are boards where I faced bias, not because of being a woman. I mean, I always say I never faced that. I have never faced that, touchwood. But I have faced bias because of my age.
Hmm.
Because there were people who were 65 plus, 70
Yeah.
plus, and I was 30 plus. So they were, I and people were not really, at that time, I'm talking about 15 years back,
Yeah.
people were not really ready to have professionals in the board. I mean, that mindset had not been created.
Hmm.
They were generally open to having, somebody, a director who is retired from a PSU, or somebody. Those were the first candidates for being a retired IS officer and all that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
people were just, boards were just beginning to think
Yeah.
about having professionals, but it was a big no at that time.
Wow.
So at that time, a woman professional in her early 30s coming to the board, it was difficult for some people to grasp in some of the boards, because I got quickly elected through word of mouth reference. I got elected, appointed in many boards. And then there were individual directors who were a little prejudiced because of that age. And then, Divya, this is, I'm sharing this very candidly. That was when I started wearing a sari. So
Wow.
I thought, like maybe wearing a sari would really help make me look older. And it really helped. Maybe not making me look older, but the kind of grace
The
and
maturity.
elegance, that
Yeah.
maturity that it brings, it really worked.
Yeah.
So that is the reason behind me sporting a sari, and I started loving it also. So that's it. And talking about the journey, I would definitely like to mention one thing. um, i I was always not made for employment. Like I could
Hmm.
not take people's suggestions and do something. I always had a different way of doing my things,
Hmm.
which made me attractive to the boards, and which made me not a very good candidate for employment. So I was in employment for some time, but then, very long back, I started practicing because I thought, I have that startupper in me, I have that entrepreneur in me. So that particular quality actually made me better suited to the board. So all
Hmm.
those who are aspiring to be independent directors, they should nurture their entrepreneurial skills, their
Wow.
leadership skills, rather than presenting themselves as a professional. I think it is more important to be presenting yourself as the person who can think innovatively, who has that leadership,
Hmm.
and who can be somebody, your colleague in the board. Because when somebody is approaching you for a board position, that person is not looking for a professional, that person is looking for a person who has that personality,
Yeah.
and a person who can be a leader, who can be at the top, and who adds value to that board level. And
Amazing.
last, one thing about motivating thing for the professionals. When I became an independent director, I mean, even at present, I became a director, a part of the board in two companies which had rejected me as a management trainee. So they don't
Oh,
remember it anymore. They don't remember it anymore. So I sometimes, I tell myself that, small rejections really don't matter in life.
yeah.
So when I was rejected as a management training, uh, that time I was devastated. I never thought that I would one day become a director in the company,
Hmm.
and sit above, like I would be above the company secretary who had rejected me, or maybe even the deputy company secretary who had rejected me as a trainee. So,
Amazing.
there are personality traits of people which makes you suited for specific roles in an organization. So you have to identify whether you have that kind of a leadership role. If you don't have that leadership thing, if you want to, you have to start developing it.
Correct. Wow, absolutely. And let me tell you for the audience here, Rupanjana is Master in Law from Hamburg, Germany, Hamburg University, Master in Applied Economics from France, European Master in Law Economics from Netherlands. Such a wonderful international experience, and I'm sure that uniqueness helped you to
Yeah.
get your initial roles. And again, one more point is that I mean, I could really feel connected. I'm also from a very small town, where we didn't have opportunities to study, and we had to go out for even our management trainings. So absolutely, it's that willpower and that uh, perseverance, that
Yes.
makes you where you are today. Such a wonderful journey, Rupanjana. Thank you for sharing. Now my next question comes is about addressing India's corporate governance challenges. We all speak about good corporate governance, we all speak about best practices, but we all know that there are a lot of companies where corporate governance or independent directors or women directors for that matter are taken on board because of the tick box. Law says it's required. Now what are those challenges which you see, some of the most pressing corporate governance challenges, and how
Hmm.
can directors, both executive and independent, they can address these challenges? Or as professionals, how do you make sure that you are actually there in the boardrooms to solve these challenges?
Okay, so Divya, I think your question had the hidden answer there,
Yeah.
because you use the word compliance and the best practices on that. being a professional who is advising companies on compliance and all, and being also playing the role in the board as an independent director, I have felt one thing, that in India, the boards in general, I'm not saying every board, but 80% of the boards, I would say, are more concentrated on compliance in letter, but not compliance in spirit.
Hmm.
So, just for an example, I would say, let's talk about the provisions of CSR, right? Section 135, which requires you to spend 2% of your average net profits over the last 3 years on an activity which is mentioned in the Schedule 7, and on a yearly basis. But when the particular thing was introduced, provision was introduced, it was not a mandatory thing. It was a comply or explain, which is okay, because you cannot suddenly start a law and make it compulsory for everybody. You have to give time to them to get used to that particular law, so which is very good. And it took the government to 5 years to make it mandatory, and now it is not comply or explain, it is comply
It
and
is
comply
compliant.
only. So the problem at that time, I'm talking about the first 5 years, companies were not even thinking about the word comply. I'm talking about 80% of the companies.
Yeah.
And it is not all companies. There were companies who were spending more than they were required to.
Hmm.
Even before the provisions came, there were companies like Tata's and all. They were doing they were doing CSR, a lot of CSR. We know about it. We all know about it. But after the provisions came, many companies were interested in कि रिपोर्ट में, बोर्ड रिपोर्ट में क्या लिखना है, क्यों नहीं खर्चा किए, so that was the mindset.
Hmm.
So if you are emphasizing on that part कि explain क्या करना है, and compliance, that is not even compliance in letter, that is finding loopholes.
Loophole.
Next comes compliance in letter, when जो 5 साल हो गया mandatory बन गया, then people started complying in letter. Now people are complying in letter, but then complying in letter is also it is just basic basic compliance, I would say, because corporate governance is so much above compliance. We
Yeah.
corporate governance is about best practices, it is about benchmarks, it is about standards. I mean, there is nothing like the best corporate governance. There is good corporate governance. You cannot say best corporate governance, because that is something which does not exist. There is
Yeah.
no limit to what
That's
level.
idealistic.
Yes, that is an idealized situation, so there is no limit to how good you can become. So companies in India, generally 80% or maybe more of them are more interested in compliance, and that too in letter. आज के डेट में भी compliance in spirit नहीं आया है. So when we talk about board diversity, maybe we'll discuss that later. But what are we doing about that? Like, we are just trying to tick the box कि हाँ हो गया, CSR में spending करना था, कर दिया, ये कर दिया.
Yeah.
क्या स्पेंडिंग किया, कहाँ पे किया, हाउ मच इज इट forwarding our corporate governance. So we really don't think so. That is a very big challenge.
Yeah.
And for me as a director in the board, it really gives me a very good ground, because I, in the role of a practicing company secretary, cannot convince the boards to do a compliance better, to exceed the compliance in letter and do it in spirit.
Correct.
Me as a practicing CS, I cannot do it, but me, the practicing CS, as a board member, I really can convince them, okay,
Convince.
let's do it better. So I
Right.
think this is a challenge, and this is something which the professionals can really contribute towards
Yeah.
achieving
Yeah.
at the
And
boardroom.
and to achieve that, or to, I can say, address that challenge, we have to be in the boards, and not only
Yes,
as the
yes.
company secretary in the
Yes,
boardrooms.
and this can be one of the motivating factors for
Yeah.
professionals to take up the boardroom positions.
Amazing. Superb. And I know you have been doing some wonderful work in CSR. You have written certain books on that.
Hmm.
Now, how can board members and leaders ensure that CSR initiatives are both impactful and
Hmm.
aligned with the long term corporate goals?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Your thoughts on that?
Okay, so actually, see, the CSR concept comes from the concept of corporate sustainability.
Yeah.
So, for a corporation, for an organization to sustain in the economy, in the society, in a country, we have to actually think about the people, the stakeholders who are there, and we have to think about the good of all the stakeholders. So it's not just the shareholders for whom we are thinking about, how to give them bonus and dividend and all that. It's not just servicing the loans taken from bank or paying tax to the government. It is also about keeping your employees happy. It is also about making your product sustainable for the customers on a long term basis, because the customers come to rely on a particular product. So if your product is a has a long term sustainability, the customers will also be benefited.
Correct.
So similarly, lot of people, there are so many stakeholders, and also the promoters themselves are the stakeholders also.
Yeah.
So they are definitely earning money, the profits, the commissions, but then that also has to be sustainable. So if you are looking at everybody, the good of everybody, the company in the long run is sustainable. It remains there for a long, long time, and then it keeps generating, benefits for all the stakeholders. Now that is the background of CSR, because CSR is directly taken from sustainability. We are doing something beyond, like when we are complying with law, we are doing laws that the government wants us to do, the legislature wants us to do. But CSR is beyond that law, right? That contribution towards the society that we are working in, and the people around us. So if we want our company to survive, we have to ensure that the people living around our factory, the plant, they do not face any difficulties because of our operations. So that
Correct.
is where the CSR concept is rooted.
Hmm.
So what I have seen is that companies, the I mean, there's nothing wrong in that. The only problem is that they were not aware that CSR is not donation. So
Hmm.
many companies, many professionals do not understand the difference between a CSR and donation.
Donation.
So the
Yeah.
MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, says that don't treat CSR as a donation, because CSR is not philanthropy. It is not a donation. CSR is your responsibility towards the
Responsible.
society, and you are giving back to the society. This is not, you are not doing a favor to anybody, which is
Correct.
philanthropy. I'll also live, I'll help the others live. So because I've not done anything wrong to that person, so why should I do anything good for that person?
Correct.
So that philanthropy is exactly opposite of that concept. It is
Right.
purely doing good for whether that person has done anything for you or not, doing good for others. But CSR is actually only the responsibility of what you have done, and minimizing the impact and making good for that
Yeah.
particular
That's where the impact assessment
that
also
is, yes,
came
that is
inside.
where the impact assessment is also there. Now companies, the management, the boards have to understand that by CSR, by doing CSR, you're not supposed to give donation to anybody. And as you're talking about the long term impact also of CSR, yes, the moment we understand that and CSR is not the same thing, we will stop giving donations. We will start taking up activities as projects, as the government wants us
Amazing.
to. Now if I'm taking up a project in the form of, let's say, a hospital or a school, or like adopting a village, or any kind of a project
Hmm.
activity in a project mode, then we create a long term value. So let's say we are by building up a school, we are creating generations of workers. These children, like I was working with a company who are bringing rack pickers to their school. They have built a
Wow.
school for the rack pickers and training them, so that in future they'll have a good employment. So
Hmm.
you are improving the life of generations. And CSR, I always say to people that this is a very good scope of advertisement. I mean, there's and take benefit of it. This is my personal opinion,
Yeah.
because if you're doing good for the society, have your name that yes, such and such company limited is taking up this initiative. So I believe in the good wishes of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So when you have done good to somebody, and that person knows that okay, this is the company that has really done this for me, they're going to remember this for their lives. They're going to be a loyal customer for life. They
Hmm.
will be your goodwill ambassadors for life, and that is what will actually help the company sustainability in the long run. So we,
Ab-
being in the board, we have to really look at that aspect.
Super, super. I think very important, you also mentioned about when especially people are coming first time, directors.
Yeah.
So my point or my question next to you is, what is the, how important is mentorship for the professionals stepping into the governance roles? And how do
Hmm.
you believe, like
Hmm.
platforms like Mentor My Board can play some role in preparing the future directors
Definitely,
for the board?
definitely. Divya, as I have also mentioned earlier, that when you are entering, I'm focusing on the PCS only, or any practicing members, any person from any one of the professions who is a practicing at the moment. So when you are practicing member, you are an expert in the particular area that you are working on. So there's no doubt that you can add value to the board. There's no doubt about it. But the problem that I have seen is that the practicing members from whichever field, especially if they're young, especially when you have attained a certain age, your experience and your age shows that maturity and that elegance it brings with it. But if you're really very young, uh, we have this concept of independent director exam in our country, and the professionals do not need any effort at all. They can just sleep,
I agree.
log in and pass the exam. There is no, and then there are so many who are exempted also from passing the sitting in the exam.
Yeah.
So it is not difficult to be qualified independent director. It's very easy. But what is difficult is coming out of that mindset of being a practicing member. So as a practicing member, we are we are uh, we are the people who are solving problems when suddenly a problem arises in a company. I mean, let's say, so we are taking up work when the particular work is to be done, compliance is to be made. But as a board member, we are in the chair to foresee the problem which might arise in future,
Hmm.
given the changing laws, given the worldwide happenings and things that are becoming trend and all. So you really cannot afford to be just a practicing member. You have to open up your mind. You have to open up your mind to the global happenings. So for example, ESG was there in the Western world for last 20 years. We have just, with the BRSR report and all that, we have just woken up. And
Hmm.
now we are realizing that 2009 में ही जब first time voluntary guideline आया था, that was पेविंग द वे फॉर ESG फ्यूचर में. आज
Correct.
हमको समझ में आ रहा है, बट एज अ प्रोफेशनल हु वाज जस्ट लुकिंग एट द वॉलंटरी गाइडलाइंस मे हैव प्रोबेबली थॉट अरे ये वॉलंटरी है, कंप्लायंस का जरूरत नहीं है. So but if you're in the board room, you cannot have that mindset कि compliance
Yeah.
का जरूरत नहीं है. You
Hmm.
have to have the wish and the will to do anything that is there. Things that, and that exactly, the Sunday musings and all that I've been sending. The main reason behind this, that if you have seen that I experiment and I do research on a lot of new upcoming topics, and I, through my Sunday messages, I try to make people aware about
Yeah.
ki kya aa sakta hai. So be prepared. So I'll tell you one thing, Divya. If you Google out, you'll find that India mein the first article about directors and officers liability insurance was written by me. And not
Oh,
just the first one, first few. That was in 2009. So immediate right
nobody
after.
was speaking about it at that time.
Huh. So nobody was speaking about it. It was 2008 and 9. I had just returned from abroad, and a large part of my studies was on insurance and the economics of insurance. So I was really, interested in the insurance literature. And then I saw that in many countries, they have this liability insurance, which takes care of, like the disputes and all, for that directors or higher level employees may enter into while performing their work for the company. but we don't have anything. So I called up many insurance companies, and they said, "Nee, we don't have any that kind of the product." So after knowing that, I wrote about it, and I wrote 2 3 articles. And somehow in the UK there is the most popular business magazine that they have in the UK is the Strategic Risk. We have the Outlook, and they have the Strategic Risk magazine. So they had this is a weekly edition, and one edition they dedicated to insurance. And suddenly they wrote a lot about me without consulting me, without knowing me. I suddenly just was googling something, and it came to my Google search that they have written, the UK based magazine has written about me and my research work in insurance. So I
Very
was really
nice.
happy about it. So the point that I want to drive home is that you have to be open about what is going on around the world. It is going to
Hmm.
come to India sometime,
Correct.
right? So if you are advanced and if you are foresighted, then only you can perform your board's role in a very in a better manner.
Yeah.
So if you are a practicing member, embrace the leadership qualities. And also, you are not going to the board as a professional, you're going there as a leader.
As
So
a lead.
your body language, your approach, everything should show that you're a leader. You're not here, you're not, nobody else is doing you a favor.
Yeah.
So but you have to own that board position. So that leadership and the awareness about what is
Awareness.
happening in the industry, the country, the globally, in any country, that is very important.
I think you addressed three of my questions in this message. Staying ahead of the regulatory development and
Yeah.
governance is
Mm.
very important. Driving innovation and agility and showing leadership
Mm-hmm.
is very important.
Mm.
And I could see, my question next also was about the impact of your authorship in the governance
I,
of
Divya, just want to, I'm just stopping you for a while, because when talking about innovation, I have a very good example to share,
please
which
do.
might make it very easy for anybody who's listening to this. We all know toys, right?
Hmm.
So as a child, we have all played with toys. Now imagine a toy which is a car, koi bhi gaadi, ya any
Hmm.
doll, anything. So as a child, we play with toys and then soon get bored with that toy. We want a different one, right? That is the normal human psychology since childhood.
Right.
But think about building blocks. Think about building blocks. That is also toy. That is
Hmm.
also a plaything. But with building blocks, you can create a different design every time you play with it. So every time it is a new kind of playing. You're getting a
Hmm.
new pleasure, a pleasure of playing, and also a pleasure of achievement. That, see, I've created this. So every time it's a new design. So innovation is like a building blocks, right?
Hmm.
So if you are up as a professional, you are playing with a toy, then it might not just a professional, any businessman also, anybody, if you are
नहीं
playing with
आना चाहिए.
toys, that you get bored. आज ये मोबाइल है, कल नया वर्षन आया, चेंज कर दो, ये कर दो, like. But in Germany, what I've seen, they sell the Lego building blocks by kilos. They
Hmm.
sell it by kilos. वहाँ पे पैकेट में नहीं आता है. So the moment you think that you are ready to build bigger buildings, so you can just go to the store and select the colors and all, and buy them in kilos, and
Oh.
then bring home. So that is how your mind is actually trained to be an innovative person.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we as professionals, or we as board members, should embrace building blocks as our toy, ताकि every day you learn something new, you create something different. So for me, my Sunday articles is one block, my books are another block, independent directorship is another block. So I'm trying to juggle all these to create an overall value which gives me tremendous amount of satisfaction. So that is what innovation should be. And it is there in everybody. We just have to nurture it, think different, and then do justice to your position in the board.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful experience, and you have shared with us, or a metaphor, what you shared. And I'm sure, a lot of people here will take up this, insight of innovation, looking at that from a very different perspective, that, okay, what you're doing, but how are you kind of creating and compiling your experience and showing it. And I
Hmm.
think nothing better than being or taking up the board roles to actually showcase your experience, expertise, and talent.
Hmm.
So as we come to the end, I think we've already you wonderful conversation, so we have already shoot up our time. But my
Yeah, yeah.
question
I
to
never realized we have crossed the time.
yeah. So my last question to you is, as someone who's navigated multiple roles in governance, what advice you would offer to the professionals who are aspiring, to for executive or non-executive role? And one last question, which I wanted to take up, is about women. How or what should be your message to those women uh, who don't dream big. I know you said from coming from a very small town, it's always that you have to create that big dream mindset. So what would be your message to those women, and those women like company secretaries or chartered accountants,
Hmm.
and some message for men, women, everyone?
Okay, thank you, Divya. Yes, I would like to. I mean, more than of course, you can read it, or it may sound like I'm giving this message to a woman. But my message, this particular message, is not to any woman in general. It is to everybody who is finding himself or herself in a disadvantageous position, and you think that you lack opportunities. So you can interpret it as women, because there are serious lack of opportunities, no doubt about it. But there are serious lack of opportunities for other kinds of people also. So talking
Hmm.
about diversity, I would like to mention that a lot of types of diversity should always be there. Like, for example, I always say that from the board's perspective, a board should not comprise of one generation of people. It should
Age
be
diversity
across,
you
yes,
mentioned.
starting
Yeah.
from 30 to 70s. The moment you have a age diversity in the board, it can do wonders, because you're seeing it from the perspective of four generations, because 10 years amounts to one generation. So four generation of customers you can make happy, because
Yeah.
you are looking at it from that generation. This is one. Geographical diversity is so important, because if you are having a board where you have, let's say, just for an example, only directors from North India, let's say, just an example, and let's say I'm making a beauty product. So if my company is making a beauty product, if all my directors are from North India, they will have a specific mindset about the skin tone, the skin color, the hair type, and all that. Take one. There should be one from Northeast. There should be one from South India. There should be one from Gujarat. So it should be a balanced board. So if the company wants to excel, it should have a balanced board in terms of geographical diversity also.
Yeah.
There should be ethnic diversity also. There should also be women gender diversity. Obviously, there is no doubt about it. So all types of diversity is very important, and for organizations in India, ESG is just coming up in the thought process of companies, but it is a big thing in the world. So if you are not a diversity, you're not maintaining diversity, any kind of diversity, you may not be able to grow beyond the borders.
I
So that is thing. And so for the people, coming back to your question, the people, the advice that I would like to give is that life is a continuous learning. I mean, if you are from a very small town today, I mean, you and me, Divya, we hardly had this in mind. This is
Yeah.
now on hindsight when I go back, and then I think, okay, I never thought about it. So I really never thought about this, that I'm from this particular city. So I'm in a disadvantaged position. So this actually becomes an excuse, because the world is such an open platform. But
Platform.
when we were growing up, we didn't have internet. There was no social media. But today, everybody is connected. So a person who is sitting in Andaman is saying the same thing in the TV news channel, reading the same newspaper as me. I'm also getting the same news at that person. So what is standing between him and me, and having the same pace? And there, with online content creation, so if you want to run a consultancy, for example, you can do it sitting at home. And thanks to COVID, we have learned work from home is a thing. So like sitting at home also, you can be a professional earning in crores. So there is no binding, no bar. The only restriction that everybody, we all have, is us. you know It's in the mind. It's in the mind. Like,
Absolutely.
मुझे करने
Absolutely.
नहीं दिया जा रहा है. You cannot say that. I'm sorry. Even if you are a woman, I mean, many women may not like this, but you don't have to stop working after you get married or you become a mother. You can reduce the amount of
Slow
work. We
down.
all have done that. We all have done that.
We all have
So कम कर दो, पेस कम कर दो, but at least this frustration should not get the better of you, that बच्चों के लिए मुझे छोड़ देना पड़ा. Like,
true.
this is something which is also bringing like some kind of a curse to your children also. I
Yeah.
always feel that if you're always saying that मैंने बच्चों के लिए sacrifice कर दिया, so that is somewhere somehow bringing a curse to your family, your child also. So let's not do that. So we all need some kind of a, yes, mentor. Divya is there, and I really love talking to you. So
Yeah.
as professionals, we need mentors, definitely. That is very important. And it is always positive thinking is always it always pays. You
Absolutely.
always have to think that, yes, I'm as good as everybody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful conversations, Rupanjana. Thank you so much for those great insights. And I'm sure,
Mhm.
this interaction, because it's live,
Mhm.
and it will remain on all the social media handles of Mentor My Board. People will keep watching it.
Mhm.
My request to everyone is, do share these, sessions with as many people as you can. I'm sure someone somewhere needs that motivation, someone somewhere needs that little push. So let that be a push. And I'm sure the way Rupanjana has evolved her wonderful journey from a professional to being on boards, and I'm sure, it's 10 plus boards, today she sits on. The immense contribution she's able to make it is just because of that one push she gave to herself. And at the age of 30, if you are entering the boardroom and you're proving there, so it's the age diversity, very very importantly, the way she has led it. I'm sure there are a lot of women, lot of men, company secretaries who are, kind of feel stagnated. I keep seeing in a lot of WhatsApp groups, it's a challenge. A lot of times people say, oh, why? But that's the time you have to break those barriers for yourself, think beyond, and see what innovative thing in your career, your profession, your journey you are bringing in, and just focus on you. I always believe, Rupanjana, is the you should be the focus of your life. And the
Yes.
moment you start looking at your impact you are creating with every action, that's where you will be able to bring that change, whether in a career, whether in the boardrooms. So thank you for watching this wonderful series, and I'm sure this is just the beginning. We are going to have wonderful wonderful people in this series who are going to speak about their first board experiences, their journey, and how they have seen what they're doing, very very differently. So stay tuned, and thank you, Rupanjana, for being here with us and sparing your valuable time with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been a good start to a Sunday.
Yeah,
And happy
absolutely.
Sunday to everyone.